2:33 a.m., the Persian Gulf. A squadron of aircraft cuts through the pitch-black night while Iranian radar repeatedly loses track of the targets skimming the sea surface. In just a few minutes, the entire horizon of the Strait of Hormuz would be stained red by burning oil. If this attack succeeded, the entire strategic oil transport route south of Iran could be paralyzed in a matter of hours. But what terrified Tehran the most was that they still didn't know who had just attacked them. Immediately after Washington declared a ceasefire, the atmosphere in the Persian Gulf seemed peaceful. Lavan Island, a key Iranian island located just off the Strait of Hormuz, was still operating at full capacity to make up for the damage from previous attacks. Off the coast of Oman, the USS Gerald R maintained a distance outside Iran's coastal radar coverage, while UAE fighter jets flew extremely low over the water to evade the radar horizon. 2:37 a.m. A series of mysterious high-precision kinetic strikes devastated the strategic core of Lavan Island. The impacts tore apart critical command posts, sorties, and oil storage tanks, but the true origin of the firepower remains a tactical mystery. In the Tehran command bunker, initial reports of a technical malfunction were quickly dismissed. SIGINT equipment detected the electronic fingerprint of the Mirage 2009. Reality set in. This was no accident, it was a systematic incursion. However, the illusion of a single attack vanished when Iran's SIGINT surveillance equipment identified the distinctive tactical electronic signatures of French-made Mirage 2009 fighters belonging to the UAE. The UAE had not merely penetrated the perimeter, they were operating with the intent of a coordinated, decisive strike. Tehran's response was immediate and fierce. The Bavar 373, Iran's top-tier domestically produced long-range surface-to-air missile system, shifted to full combat readiness, its phased array radars scanning the southern horizon. Coastal batteries loaded Syed 4 missiles, while crews hurriedly prepared swarms of Shahed suicide drones for a large-scale retaliatory strike against UAE territory. Less than 30 minutes after the ceasefire order, the Gulf region plunged directly into a dangerous spiral of escalation. 2:45 a.m. The tactical situation shifted as the UAE Air Force's Mirage 2009's highly agile multi-role fighters manufactured by France began to ramp up the pressure. No longer lurking shadows, they began a daring decoy maneuver over the pitch-black waters of the Gulf. The UAE pilots executed sharp turns, pulling the aircraft sharply upward before diving straight down toward the waves. This maneuver was designed to overwhelm the saturation threshold. By forcing Tehran's radar operators to constantly reacquire targets and split their scan patterns across multiple segments, the Mirage jets prevent Iran's integrated air defense system from concentrating its lethal firepower on any single threat vector. Behind that curtain of chaos, the shadow of the U.S. stretches out with cold precision. Deep within the Gulf of Oman, the aircraft carrier USS Gerald R serves as a silent command center, its massive hull resembling a digital fortress. The escort fleet, comprising Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, begins the process of activating the Mark 41 vertical launching system. Inside the launch tubes, the guidance chips of the Tomahawk cruise missiles awaken, calculating the optimal terrain-following flight path. High above the F-35C Lightning II stealth fighter, the pinnacle of American technology weaves through the gaps in Iran's radar network. Utilizing sensor fusion capabilities and MADL data, links the F-35C acts as a forward command center, transmitting real-time target data to the Tomahawk launching ships while maintaining absolute radio silence. 2:57 a.m. Iran strikes back with extreme ferocity. Recognizing the scale of the threat, Tehran activates its backup defense layers. Dozens of older generation surface-to-air missiles are fired in rapid succession to halt the coalition's advance. But as the sky is lit up by streaks of ballistic missiles, a series of mysterious electronic signals, enigmatic tactical pulses begin to appear behind the main U.S. formation. Iranian radar struggled to classify them. The operators were too disoriented by the UAE's feint to realize that these ghosts were the prelude to a far more sophisticated strike. While the UAE's Mirage 2009s continued their decoy maneuvers just above the Gulf's surface, Tehran unexpectedly activated a pre-planned counterattack. No longer limited to isolated jamming or conventional air defense, This was a comprehensive electronic ambush along Iran's southern coastline, directly synchronized with the Bavar 373 fire control radar. Stretched radar signals and distorted reflections created a series of electronic phantoms, making it difficult for UAE pilots to distinguish real targets from jamming. But behind that layer of chaos, the Bavar 373 silently locked onto targets based on velocity vectors exploiting the very electromagnetic pulses emitted by the Mirage. From a coastal battery, a Sayed-4 missile is launched. Equipped with a multi-mode anti-jamming seeker, it continuously shifts frequencies to evade decoys. It soars into the sky at Mach 5, tearing through the Gulf's atmosphere, leaving a trail of white light in the night. In the cockpit of the lead Mirage, an alert flashes almost instantly. The pilot yanked the control stick hard, the fighter enduring over 9G during the high G brake turn. Flare canisters and electronic decoys erupted thickly, creating a chaotic field of light and interference in its wake, but the Sayed-4 maintained lock-on until the very last moment. The Mirage's escape was merely the beginning of a sophisticated trap. Sayed-4 didn't need physical contact. It triggered a proximity fuse, releasing an extremely powerful electromagnetic pulse right at the heart of the UAE formation. The MADL link the lifeline to the Americans was severed, leaving the UAE pilots isolated in a tactical blind spot. 3:15 a.m. The HUD in the cockpit began to flicker and distort. Tactical data links were severed, including the real-time target sharing channel with the US. The MADL network, the backbone of the entire coalition's sensor fusion, began to die out, packet by packet. Within mere seconds, the entire UAE formation was cut off from the shared battlefield picture. Each Mirage became an independent unit, no fused data, no command, and most critically, no longer able to see the Iranian air defense network closing in. On the USS Gerald R Ford aircraft carrier, the command screens turned red. An officer reported urgently, "Sir, we're losing the UAE network." The commander did not react immediately, his gaze fixed on the map that was slowly breaking apart. Then the order was given succinctly: switch to active defense, activate the EA-18G Growler, restore the electromagnetic corridor, prepare to escalate. And from that moment on, the battle was no longer a coordinated attack. It became a struggle for control of the electromagnetic space across the entire Gulf region. 3:22 a.m. Noticing the coalition's momentary confusion after the UAE squadron was neutralized, Tehran decided to launch a two-pronged attack. Iranian electronic warfare units activated a wide-area jamming network across the entire Strait of Hormuz. This was not just noise. It was a sophisticated attack designed to blind US sensors and disrupt radar locks. Simultaneously, launch pads along the Iranian coastline erupted as dozens of Shahed drones, Tehran's signature low-cost yet highly effective weapon, soared into the sky. Flying in swarms just above the water surface to conceal their radar signatures, they headed straight for the U.S. Arleigh Burke-class destroyers. The night sky, once a safe haven, suddenly became an open trap. The Bavar 373's algorithm identified a flaw in the F-35C's radar scattering design. In less than a second, the impossible happened. The Iranian radar achieved a hard lock. The warning siren in the cockpit wailed the sound of death approaching at Mach 6. Inside the American cockpit, the pilot's HUD screen flashed a bright red warning: critical lock. For a platform designed around the legend of invisibility, this moment was a shock. The fifth-generation stealth signature had been breached. 3:26 a.m. From the shadows behind the formation, the American ghost revealed itself. An EA-18G Growler, the U.S. Navy's premier electronic attack aircraft manufactured by Boeing, activated its next-generation jammer system. The Growler did not attempt to shut down Iran's entire network. Instead, it focused its energy with high-precision drilling a narrow signal corridor through the jammed spectrum. It was just a 1-second window, but it was all the F-35C needed. The pilot immediately executed an aspect change maneuver while activating the aircraft's internal EW systems to break the Bavar 373's lock-on. The red alert vanished. The U.S. launched a masterful deception operation. The Ford-class carrier strike group deployed a series of tactical decoys and digital signals, creating a ghost fleet on Iran's radar screens. Tehran's artillery units fired into the sky, wasting precious SAM missiles on non-existent targets. Meanwhile, U.S. warships activated their Phalanx CYWS systems and CRAM missiles, with 20mm Vulcan cannons shredding the incoming Shahed drones into metal debris, while Iran is still celebrating its successful defense. F-35C fighters have quietly entered the dead zone of Lavan Island's radar, ready to deliver the finishing blow. 3:30 a.m. While Iran remained ensnared in the U.S. decoy matrix, the EA-18G Growler expanded the signal corridor and stabilized the data environment. This allowed the UAE's Mirage 2009s to reconnect to the tactical network. In just a few seconds, the coalition's severed combat network was restored. The F-35Cs, acting as invisible midfielders in the sky, used the MADL data link to transmit high-precision target data directly to the UAE pilots. Now, the Mirage jets could see all of Iran's assets without turning on their own radars, becoming silent killers. Iranian radar screens still detect the Mirage, but they remain completely blind to the F-35Cs lurking just a few kilometers away. The brain of the attack is invisible. The hand of the attack is visible but untouchable. The true main force has finally entered the fray. The coordination between the US F-35Cs and the UAE's Mirage 2009s becomes a seamless dance between stealth and precision. Leveraging sensor fusion capabilities, the coalition begins systematically dismantling the remaining air defense nodes around Lavan Island. Iranian SAME crews noticed their reaction times slowing. Radar data between units began to lose synchronization as the USEW umbrella continued to paralyze their communication systems. The impenetrability of Iran's core region was about to be tested by a barrage of precision fire. The tactical window was very narrow, but coordination was now flawless. With the EA-18G Growler maintaining signal corridors, the coalition unleashed its most devastating coordinated strike. From the deep waters of the Gulf of Oman, the Arleigh Burke-class destroyers escorting the USS Gerald R forward finally opened fire. A barrage of Tomahawk cruise missiles erupted from their launch tubes, skimming the terrain at near supersonic speeds as they hurtled toward the Iranian mainland. 3:45 a.m. above, Lavan Island F-35C Lightning IIs and Mirage 2009s re-established contact and entered the kill zone. Leveraging sensor fusion capabilities, the F-35Cs designated priority targets with extreme precision. They weren't just dropping bombs, they were orchestrating a symphony of destruction. The F-35Cs launched small-diameter GBU-39 bombs, while the UAE's Mirage jets followed up with heavy-duty JDAM GBU-12 guided bombs. The strikes are as precise as surgery. One by one, the main distillation stations, the fortified command bunkers, and the remaining Bavar 373 radar nodes on Lavan Island vanish in columns of blazing orange fire. Iranian air defense crews, now completely out of sync and blinded by the U.S. electronic warfare umbrella, could only watch as their strategic core was systematically dismantled. The impenetrable shield had shattered. As the attack squadrons turned back toward the aircraft carrier, the smoke rising from Lavan Island told a grim tale. Iran did not lose the island, but they lost something far more important: the illusion of an impenetrable core. The regime in Tehran faces a haunting reality that despite advanced SAM systems and EW networks, the coalition can still reach and destroy their most vital assets at any time. The black smoke over Lavan Island is a stark warning. Tehran's steel wall has cracked and the coalition knows exactly where to drill. But as the dust settles, we must ask, what if? What would have happened if the EA-18G Growler had failed to breach that signal corridor? If Iran had maintained its electronic superiority for just 5 more minutes, the entire strike force might have been dragged into a devastating attrition war.